Hi guys, right, I hope you've had a lovely half term. Can you believe it's June already? But here we are, we're going to be writing this week an explanation about the human heart. Now I'm hoping that you've downloaded already the text that will give you a little bit of background to what we're going to write. So in this text here we found out about these two very important people and their work. But also in terms of the writing, you should have downloaded this document here, which is our plan. I'm going to talk about how we use that, but also my model. Okay, so I've written on these myself, and I've got a sneaky suspicion you might be able to do better than I can. Okay, so as we go through our writing, we're going to be using technical language because remember it's a non-fiction text, so we need to sound like the experts. We're going to use a logical sequence. That's going to help us make it as understandable as possible. Okay, and that's where our paragraphing is going to come in to help us out. We're going to use diagrams and photographs to illustrate what we're talking about. It makes it more visual for the reader as well. And so that we can make sure that our explanations are as simple as possible and as easy to understand, we're going to use a lot more simple and compound sentences. Okay? The first thing we're going to look at in terms of making our own piece of writing, before we even get onto the plan, is actually to gin ourselves up with some of the technical language that we're going to include in our piece of writing. So if you see here on my model, what I've actually done is I've put some words into bold so they really stand out for the reader, but also it's going to tell our reader that these words aren't bold for no reason. They're included in our glossary down here. Okay, our glossary is going to help our reader really understand what we're talking about. Even though we're using words that they might not know, they can turn to our glossary as kind of an inbuilt dictionary really. Okay, so we need to choose which words we think our reader may not know so that we can define those words so that they can therefore understand our writing better. Okay, now a good way of doing that, and again we're going to use good old Uncle Google here. Okay, we're going to go to a BBC Bitesize show, which I'm sure you've seen lots during the lockdown. Okay, so we're going to search for BBC Bitesize heart. There we go, and you see the top hit here. We see the heart, the circulatory system. Now it says there GCSE biology. Don't worry about that. The GCSEs are a long way off. But it doesn't stop us being able to read it. Okay? We're still perfectly capable of reading it and understanding it. Okay? And what we'll see here is it takes us straight to this page where we find out about the heart. Okay? And you can see that Bitesize has done exactly the same thing in that it's put some of these really important terms in bold. That means we can find out a bit more about them. Now at the top here you can see a little guide whereby we've got different pages. Okay, and some of these pages will also come in handy. For example, if I go on to number 3, I can see that it then tells me about blood vessels. Okay, because I might want to include that paragraph on my piece of writing. You don't have to go with the same paragraphs that I've gone with. Okay, now good thing with Bitesize is it gives us lots of nice little videos to watch, and it really illustrates what's actually happening. Okay, so we could watch that video there about the blood, but I'll leave you to do that in your own time. Okay, now what I want you to do with this website is actually go through and find out some of these technical terms. Okay, so jot them down and keep them to one side because you might be able to use them later. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to have a look at that and to jot down your words and also to write down the definitions. And when you're ready, you can press play again. Okay, now we're going to look at doing the plan, and what I want to do first is show you how I've gone about making the plan and how, again, just like last time, I've colour coded each part of my plan and matched it to the same part in the model. Now by now of course you've done your glossary and entered it onto your plan. Remember, on the plan we don't need to go in and add the definition for each one. We'll save that for the finished article. This part of the plan is just to remind you which terms you need to put into bold and therefore the terms you need to pop into your glossary to explain in greater detail. Okay, so again, just like last time, I've colour coded each part. So for my introduction, I've discussed what the heart actually is. Okay, it sounds simple, but we need to be a bit more scientific about it. So I've used some language that makes it sound quite scientific. Okay, so major organ, and it's part of our respiratory system. And again, I remember to make those bold in your writing. Of course, you might want to underline it if you're doing it into your book, and that's fine. Okay, I've also gone into my second and third paragraphs. Okay, and I've done exactly the same thing. Now you'll notice that I've only got maximum 4 different colours. That means I've got 4 different ideas. Okay, I don't want to go into any more detail than that because I don't want to kind of confuse my reader. So we're going to keep our ideas very simple and very to the point. So that way we can make sure that our explanation is also very simple and very to the point. Okay. Now, when you've decided on what paragraphs you want to do, you might want to do the first 3 kind of similar to mine. We're then going to move on to this last box here, so our 4th idea. Okay. I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about that. So what I want you to do is make sure that you've filled in the first 3 boxes, so you're very clear on what you want to talk about in each paragraph. Make sure that you choose a title for each paragraph, because that's going to help us subhead our work and structure it really, really simply and clearly for our reader. Okay. When you've done that, then you can press play again and we can look at this 4th idea. Okay, right, so we're on to our final paragraph. As you can see from my plan, I've filled this in and I've decided that I'm going to go with this idea of explaining what the blood is and what it does. Okay, and again, I've colour coded each of my 4 ideas. Okay, so I'm going to try and remember to change the colours as I type. Okay, so onto this sheet over here. So I'm just going to model and explain what I'm doing, just like I would do in class. Okay, so my first point is that blood is essential to life. Okay, and I've got to remember that I need to keep some of these sentences very, very simple and very, very to the point. Okay, so blood is essential to not like, but life. Okay, nice and simple. Okay, straightforward. Really makes that point for my reader. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to explain how it carries oxygen and nutrients around the body. Okay, so I'm just going to change that font colour there. There we go. Okay, so I don't want to tie myself down to just using simple sentences. So this one is going to be a compound. So I'm going to use a conjunction to link a couple of ideas. Okay, so here we go. It carries oxygen to all the parts of the body. So there's my conjunction. They can keep working. Okay, it is that simple. Okay. I want to also explain what it carries around the body, because I can keep it as just oxygen around all the parts of the body, okay? But I want to go into a little bit more detail. So again, I'm going to change my font color here to keep it the same as the plan, so you can see where the differences are. So going into green now, detail about what it carries, okay? And I've got about CO2, that's carbon dioxide, and it carries other waste products around to different parts of the body. So I'm just going to go on and explain that here, okay? Blood carries carbon dioxide. You could equally there put carries CO2 and then use your brackets to explain what that is. Quite a nice idea to show off that punctuation skill as well. And other waste products to the lungs, kidneys. Remember, I've got to use that comma to separate those 2 organs. and the digestive system to be removed from the body. There we go. Okay, quite a lengthy, weighty sentence that one. A lot of information carried in there. So I need to make sure that my punctuation and my use of conjunctions here is really spot on. Okay. Right, last bit is this bit over here. So fights infections. Okay, because I want to explain that not only does our blood carry stuff around the body, but it does actually help us fight infection. And I'm sure you've heard on the news in recent weeks and months, in fact, that we've been looking at ways that we can help the blood to fight off the infection of coronavirus, for example. Okay, so I'm just going to change my font color over here. There we go, to match it up. Here we go. So a bit about the fighting infection. So blood also, so dropping that word in there to say that it's not the only thing that it does, also fights infections, and so I've got my conjunction there, carries hormones. Remember, I've got that on my glossary over there around the body. Okay, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. Okay, and I've found through Great Uncle Google, he found me this, which is just a really simple diagram to explain exactly what's going on. So I hope that's been helpful to you. So you can see how I've sort of structured my writing, and hopefully you can put that into practice when you are doing your other paragraphs. Okay, again, don't forget to do your glossary at the bottom. Okay, and I've just added here a little end, a parting shot, if you will. Okay, a little bit just to summarise the fact that your readers should now know a bit more about what the heart does and how it keeps us alive and healthy. And also drop in there that little reminder, stay healthy, exercise and eat a balanced diet, which might have been a little bit more difficult during the lockdown. Okay, now then guys, I'd really look forward to seeing some of these, so if you can send them into school on the admin email address, that'd be really, really cool, because I do like seeing your work. It gives me a little smile, but it also shows me how you're getting on at home. Okay. Right, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned a little bit about the heart and the blood, and also practice all those essential writing skills.